Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new first episode of the podcast of spirituality and psychology. I'm here with Ellen and Carlos, and this is Carlos.
This is Ellen.
Beautiful, and we want to give you like a super warm welcome to this spirituality and psychology podcast, where you are going to learn tons about spirituality and psychology and how both worlds are intermingled with each other. So you are going to get the science of psychology and also all these new, more esoteric, new age beliefs from spirituality. And our aim is to bridge both of them. And for your information, this episode is sponsored by Playing Camp. In Playing Camp, you can get into contact with your inner child through workshops and immersions where you can heal and play with your inner child, with other human beings, and connect with the beautiful and the wonder of playing to connect with yourself, connect with other people, and connect with your environment. So thank you very much for Playing Camp, for sponsoring this episode. And for the episode of today, we have a very, very interesting and sexy topic about polarities, like sex and gender polarities between the masculine and the feminine energy. And that's why we have this lovely couple of podcasters, which is Ellen and Carlos. And we're going to tell you a bit of our personal stories and how we arrived to the present moment today. But before, we are going to introduce a bit of what are you going to learn here in the Spi Psy podcast and what is the topics that we are going to do. And first of all, why? Why are we creating Spi Psy? Spi Psy has the main goal and vision of bridging the worlds of science and psychology with the worlds of beliefs and esotericism from spirituality, because we believe that there is truth on both worlds. And it's not both worlds that should conflict with each other. It's more like, how can we create complementary approaches? How can we drink from both sources, the source of science and logical thinking, as well as the source of emotional beliefs and traditions that have been giving and bringing wisdom from many years. So all this accumulated wisdom will match the new modern scientific methodologies to access to truth and knowledge and physics and understanding of the universe from both the matter as well as the belief, the religions and the spirituality. And what are we going to do? We are going to create this series of podcasts in a weekly basis where me, Carlos, and El, we are going to discuss different topics from both perspectives, from the spirituality as well as the psychology. So stay tuned, because we are going to bring you a lot of good, high quality material with scientific research to back up the different state of the art in the world of science, as well as different texts, traditions, and practices from spirituality that you can implement in your daily life to improve your quality of being, your quality of consciousness and awareness in your day-to-day life. So thank you very much for listening to thank you very much for being a listener of this podcast. And we are going to introduce ourselves with a feminine character and a masculine character. And we are going to tell you a bit of our stories so then we can get to know each other. And we are going to embark in this lovely journey in the Spi Psy podcast. Yeah. So to start with this, we are going to start with our lovely feminine energy of this lovely experience, which is Ellen. So Ellen,
Yeah.
would you like to tell us a bit of your story and what's your relationship with spirituality as well as psychology?
Yeah, I think, okay. Welcome. I'm Ellen. I'm speaking from Ravenna actually now because I'm in Italy. And well, first of all, nowadays, the situation here is a bit tough. It's a bit tense and intense also, because there was like a huge flood, especially in my region in Italy. So like, people are like, try to survive actually. And mentally, it's so heavy. But like, I'm really trying to settle with these things because I came back from Bali just 2 weeks ago, where I met this beautiful Nyoko. And I don't know if you know the word in Italian. It's actually a dialect from Romagna, from this part of region in Italy. It means, it's actually it has many meanings. One of that is like something to eat, of course, because we are in Italy. That, of course, is like a piece of like kind of a sandwich, but it's not a sandwich. Oh my God, now like people from Italy, from Bologna, around here, they're gonna kill me. But anyway, it's not really a sandwich. It's like a fried, delicious piece of like flour, which is really classical from this part. But anyway, gnocchi means also beautiful man, amazing man. Okay, so this is like comparison. Anyway, so yeah, I'm trying, like to find the positivity from this kind of disaster, like catastrophic climate disaster that we're living, and especially like in a psychology terms, it was and it still is very tough to live and to try to settle and to live life with this shit going on, because you want to help, but you can't because you need to work and you don't have time, but you like people need help now. And there's so many people like nowadays going there, just going around here, helping like people who are like struggling with mold in the fucking house. And it's so weird because now, Carlos, I'm thinking about, what do you remember when I told you that I was about to have a tattoo that it was saying no mud, no lotus?
Yeah.
Such a weird coincidence that now like my fucking region is full of mud. It's full of mud and yeah, because it's like houses and streets are like crazy, just mud everywhere.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to do a bit comment here.
Yeah, please.
Since the episode is about masculine and feminine energies, we can already reflect about what's going on here.
I know.
With a masculine energy having like a very clear direction, future oriented, while the feminine energy lives in the present moment, is focused on the feelings, as well as is more wide. Let's say more distracted, some sense, like is more aware of their surroundings. And then later on the episode, we can also make some reflection about what are the evolutionary and adaptive differences on perception between males and females, because it's very related with the hunter and gathering as well. Like if the male was more hunting, then his vision is more unidirectional, while if the women is more gathering, then the vision is wider, is polydirectional. So in this case, in your discourse, we could already reflect it. Exactly. We could already reflect in how I asked you about what is your life story, and then you started exactly in the present, and you moved to some gastronomical concept about Italy to come back to the tattoo.
Crazy.
Which, indeed, no man, no lotus, which is a very powerful, it's a very powerful insight as well. And very Jungian also in psychology on how you can find the light by going through the shadow, right? Yeah. Which is a concept that we can discuss in future episodes. So, Elen,
anyway,
could you like to tell us about your story?
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I mean, I think I'm a yoga teacher. Okay, I love yoga. I'm trying to embrace this discipline since like in a serious and a disciplined way since 2018. So not much, but I always like being in like in a discipline contest and background, because I was practicing karate with my dad since I was like 16, 15. And I think that from that age, I was always interested, like inspired by the world of psychology and the nervous system and all the kind of topics that that talks about this kind of field. So yeah, like now I'm a designer. I work in a design field, in a digital design, user experience design, which is also embracing the psychology of users, because, we're trying to solve user problems that actually using a digital product, so that psychology effect also exists a lot in this kind of job. So yeah.
So let's see. Let me reflect just to check if I understand properly. You started when you were 16 years old. That was your entry point into spirituality by practicing karate with your father, which already has some elements of these Oriental philosophies, as well as you being Italian. Is your background religious, Catholic, Christian?
Well, not really. My background is kind of is a mix. It's a mix of cultures and roots, different roots. Like my father is from Sicily, so he spent like, I think, the half of his life in Sicily, because the other life he spent it with my mom as a nomad, in a circus. Because from my mom's side, they like acrobats. So my grandfather from my mom's side, he was an acrobat, and he was working in circus and theaters, and he was really a crazy man, like really, really crazy man. So it's a different kind of, totally different kind of contest that actually emerged when my parents fell in love. But I really find interesting the thing that through karate and through like circus artists and art, there's always this kind of line of balance. Like, there's, in karate field, you aim, you're looking for balance, mentally balance, also physically balance. In the circus contest, you're like in a balance every time, every day, in every fucking thing you do. You're working, you're living. There's like a balance contest there. So this is interesting. Yeah.
Which I would also like to reflect here on the importance of the body and embodiment practices in spirituality, because there are different theories on psychology that I speak about how much psychology has focused on the mind as a subject. However, the mind inhabits the body, which is something that in religion appears very frequently. And also we could analyze as well the historical evolution of religions, of how more primitive religions used to be much more embodied, like through dances, ecstatic dance, not the new ones, but the old ones, around the fire, until people reach this level of trance, and how the body used to be the door and the access to altered state of consciousness. Meanwhile, more evolved or newer, historically speaking, evolutionary speaking religion, they focus more on a pure exploration of the mind, attempting or trying to neutralize as much as possible the stimuli coming from the body. So this is already very interesting, especially considering these performing artists, which I also shared that background, like how you or me, we can be more in tune with our body, as well as what is the stimuli, the interoceptive stimuli coming from our body, and how we might have had an easier path to explore spirituality because of that background, which is something that in many occasions, these, let's say, more popularized practices like mindfulness, some of the exercises that are around feeling your body.
Yeah.
So for us, probably because our background in performing arts, this has been something that has been quicker or easier to perform, right? Nice, Ellen. So something else that you want to add about your history around spirituality, religion, and psychology?
Well, about religions, you mentioned religion. Well, it's another kind of hot topic, because I used to, to go out from religion classes in a school when I was at school, like studying from elementary school. Like my family is not really religious. I mean, not religious like in a Catholic way, which is like the common the most common thing here in Italy, you know, like Christianity and Catholicism. Not really our cup of tea. Well, so my cup of tea, at least. I'm speaking from myself. And I think like it was interesting to me, like growing up and having the possibility to choose. You know, this is like something really that I'm grateful to my parents, my family, because they always gave me the possibility to choose, to say, okay, this is not part of me. I can choose it to be part of it or not. This is gonna be just about me. And that is, I think that is really an important decision that I made. Yeah, and I respect that. Yeah, a lot.
Definitely. Which is something really interesting also that we could cover in future episodes about how what's the difference between a kid, or let's say a young person that grows embedded in a culture where religion is a fundamental component and of the identity of the culture, and how they incorporate this identity, versus in which cases this kid or this person start rejecting that culture, versus people that change religions later in life, versus people that they come from an atheist or this more, let's say, open background where you can choose whatever you want, and later in life, what are their choices and what happens? Because every scenario is possible, and I can say that I have met people from each experience and each scenario, where they come from an atheist background and then they end up being Muslim, or they convert from Christian to Muslim, or from an open religion, they go to more spiritual, let's say, new age spiritual practices. Because I think it's relevant also at this point to present a definition of spirituality and religion, which for me, spirituality, well, actually,
what about
I think,
you, Carlos? What about you? Because I feel like I spoke so much now, and I cover like so many topics. And yeah, what about you?
So my story, simply put, I'm from a Catholic background, so I was born in Spain. There is this story my mother likes to tell, which is like when we were born, my mother was more like your family, you know, like let the kids grow and let them take their own decision about the beliefs. But my grandmother was saying like, we have to baptize them, because otherwise they don't go to hell, they don't go to heaven, they go to this. I forgot the what? Sorry.
Purgatorio.
Exactly. They go to the purgatory. If you read the Divine Comedy from Dante, all of this information comes from there, right? So I got baptized, and later on, because I was in a neighborhood which used to be like not the best neighborhood in my hometown. It was like I'm from a working class family. So then my parents invested a bit of money to take me to a religious school with priests. And I have this story of a friend that I met later on my 20s. He was telling me like, why your parents send you to an indoctrination school or indoctrination center, because this was a Catholic school called San Agustin. And my story is like from a young age, I started to develop quite a strong critical thinking. So whenever I found myself on these religious classes, or they're telling us the stories of the Bible, I was very skeptical about the whole thing. And there is this event when I was like maybe 7 years old, something like that. They present us the story of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Like, okay, Jesus, he died on the cross, and then 3 days later he's back, resurrected. And I remember asking one of the priests, like, okay, if he died naked, why he's resurrected with clothes? So
That's a legit question. It's a legit question.
Exactly. So that's like an indicator of the critical thinking and everything around. I remember another question, which was like about the story of Cain and Abel, which is like, okay, if there was only 2 guys and there were 2 boys, where is the rest of the people come from? You know, where is the descendancy coming from? So that critical thinking made me to become an atheist. And although I did the communion as well, but more because of tradition, more because of my grandmother, I grew to be like quite a strong atheist. And there is also this period of my life where I used to dance breakdance. And at the end of the trainings, or sometimes at the beginning, there was this Jehovah Witness, which I used to argue for hours because I was studying biology, I was studying the theory of evolution. So I used to go to the Jehovah Witness and tell him like, okay, how you say that the universe was created by God? And then he started to explain, he was a creationist. So for him, what was written in the Bible was true, literally true, and like factual, let's say. And then he was mentioning that, you know, Adam and Eve and all the animals, and then the planets and the star, everything was for the men, which is an anthropocentric point of view, or an anthropocentric perspective on the universe. And yeah, it was like really long discussions about all the proof and all the theoretical, historical, biological support for the theory of evolution versus the first story of the Bible, versus the Genesis. So that took us many hours of discussions and discussions and discussions, and both of us not opening their mind in any direction, right?
Yeah.
And this was until I was in the university, and in my last year of psychology. So I started to study psychology, and I love the theory of evolution because it was able to explain so many things about the mind. And in my last year, I entered into a depression, like quite heavy. However, I was learning about positive psychology, and at some point throughout my depression, one of my friends, which was a poet, that a philosopher introduced us. So I was, at a pretty young age, I was surrounding myself by highly intellectual people, intellectual in the sense of powerful intellect, powerful, logical, rational, as well as artistic. So for me, the closest to spirituality was art or expression, right? But I didn't know it. And for me, religion back on the days was just lies, let's say, like lies to manipulate people or to confuse the people, or just stories from the old that didn't make any sense.
Yep.
So in this case, in this scenario, last year of university, and I'm going through a very strong depression. And at some point, the poet suggests me to take a look to the Tao Te Ching, and I get the book from the library. And actually, I can tell the whole story in another episode of how I got my first.
You see, like as soon as you speak, there are so many topics to talk about. So good, so fucking good.
Thank you.
Anyway.
So I can tell the whole story of my first spiritual experience in another episode. Making the long story short, I got a very strong spiritual experience when I locked myself into the room, and the Tao, the Jing, was the framework through the one I could interpret or make sense of the experience that I was going through. And I'm very grateful for this, because it was the opposite of the Catholic religion. So the Catholic religion that I have been rejected was very dogmatic is one, and also prescriptive. Like you have to do this if you want to go to heaven, and this is true, this is true, this is true. That's the dogma. And the prescriptive is you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Tao is for me, it was the opposite. It was the frameless frame. It was based on paradoxes, on this is true and the opposite is true at the same time, and both of them are true. So that was lovely, because it allowed my mind to open so much. And in this state of openness, I connect very quickly with prosociality. And then I understood, it's like, okay, this is religion, this is spirituality. It makes human beings to be happy for themselves and to want to behave and do good things for the rest of the people and for the humanity. And since I was studying positive psychology at the same time, then I understood the link. And this is the story of the spirituality and the psychology. How can I study spirituality? How can I study this process that I'm going through of enlightenment, quote unquote, from a framework, from a perspective of psychology? Because at the end of the day, I'm on my mind, I'm on my body, and everything that I'm experiencing is something that historically has been present on so many other people, like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, all these spiritual leaders. At the end of the day, they were human beings that they got revelation, enlightenment, and then they were able to communicate, to verbalize this, and to attract people. So that's the origin story, because after that, there is like a long period of, discovering Taoism more in depth, discovering Buddhism, starting to meditate, starting to do yoga more in a more stable basis or more frequently. And yeah, eventually I also did, I studied a bit of Hinduism. I went to India, I certified as a yoga teacher. I was doing a Vipassana retreat as well.
Oh my God, guys. Oh my God, guys. Oh my God. What about that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I know the story. Maybe one day you will tell us again.
Actually, for the curious listeners, so curiosity is one of my personality traits, 100%. There is a video of 1 hour, 1 hour and a half or two in the YouTube channel, Carlito Fluito, which you are welcome to check. Otherwise, I will tell the story with the new insights, right? That are not
I
in
think
the video.
we should do it, Carlos. We should do it. I think also because I think that was the first. I mean, all of these came from that night, from that chat, right? So I think it's pretty important to our listeners.
It is. So also for the curious listener, I opened this YouTube channel, Carlito Fluito, which was about being on flow, which is both the flow of spirituality, right, from these Oriental traditions, and the flow of psychology, the one of staying in the present moment. So this Carlito Fluito, I was posting back on the days different content around spirituality, psychology as well. And eventually I even got into a PhD where I did I did 3 years on the lab and 2 years of a PhD, where I was researching the effects of nature on moral behavior. So that was the closest that it was from religion and spirituality. And I studied also the emotion of awe, which is like, when something is awesome and is this feeling of surprise that make us feel small, and then we feel connected with our surroundings. So that was my most purest approach from science to spirituality. And at the same time, there is so many research, so many PhD programs, so many universities, so many approaches. So we will be discovering throughout the different episodes more of this. And I didn't finish the PhD, so Carlito Fluito is a non-PhD. And non-PhD has a meaning, which I can explain in a couple of sentences. There is this philosopher called Slavoj Žižek, which explains the importance of negating the main characteristic of the object. So being a PhD is someone that finished the education of a PhD, and not having a PhD is someone that has not started. But being a non-PhD means that it's someone that started a PhD but decided not to finish it. And it's this very small group of people that are characterized because, let's say this about me or us, which is we are highly driven, ambitious, successfully driven, as well as, let's say, intellectually capable of enrolling into a PhD. But we are also like aware enough to love our lives enough to not to sacrifice, let's say, 4 years of pain for a label, for a qualification, right?
But so where were you, Carlos, where were you doing that PhD? In Spain or?
In Belgium. I was in the university. It was actually the Catholic University of Louvain-la-Neuve. But the lab was not religiously associated. So it was, it was a Greek guy, Orthodox. So there was no religion. And the lab was religion and positive emotions, I think it was, or a study of religion. I don't remember. I will quote you better, Vasilis, don't worry. Vasilis is my former, how you call, tutor, mentor, guy. I forgot the name in English. My professor. So yeah, after stopping with the PhD, then I specialized more on online businesses and all this online world of marketing and writing. And I published a book, which I invite you if you want to go deeper into my personal journey. It's called 13 Letters since 2013. If you can take a look.
Right? You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. Yeah, and then here I am in Bali. living the life. And yeah, nowadays the main focus is to bring joy and happiness into people's daily life by facilitating experiences of playing camp, which brings adults to play. Yeah, and building a future where people take life as a game and they learn to play with joy moment by moment, because spoiler alert, we are all going to die. so, so even those people
Thank
that
you,
say like,
Carlos, for reminding us.
yeah, even well, I didn't mention in the story, but I took psychedelics at different moments of my journey, and this was super really powerful. To to reduce the strength of my intellectual rational mind, and B, to be able to process and accept death in a more deeper, joyful way at the same time. So, and yeah, lucky.
Talk about it also
I'm
about
gonna
that.
talk
I
about.
think it could be interesting for many of us. Like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
topic very, very interesting.
Yeah, psychedelics is a must.
Yeah.
So this is where we are, Ellen. And
Yeah.
we didn't get to speak much about the masculine, feminine energies.
Yeah. Can we, I mean, I think we have like still 10 minutes and we can approach the topic.
We can present it for next day.
Okay.
Yeah. So one thing that I would like to say is I'm listening lately to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and I love how he explains the Genesis, well, the Bible, the stories, because this is something also is meaningful for my personal story. From rejecting Christianity, I moved to more Oriental religions to start to understand the concept of God in monotheistic Western religions. And I think Jordan Peterson has done a lot of a great, lovely advance on this, because the way he explains Genesis, I think, is very powerful for masculine, feminine characteristics and polarities.
Interesting.
Yeah. He explains
Especially, sorry, Carlos, but
go.
because I have never studied about nothing about Christianity and Catholicism. So I really feel like ignorant about this topic. I never studied anything.
Yes. So we can,
yeah,
we can tell a bit of the story for the listener that doesn't know. So God creates the universe, basically, no, and He does it in 7 days, and then on the day seventh, on the 7th day, He creates Adam, and from Adam He creates the women also.
Who chose the names? Like, why his name is Adam and Eva? Why?
That's a really good question that I cannot answer at this moment. Yeah. So yeah, we could even write it in the list of questions that Ellen asked to catch me, to prove my ignorance. Why Adam and Eve as a name?
I guess, like, I mean, that's a legit question, right? I mean, who chose that name, and why? There's a meaning about these names in kind of, I mean, we say like the Sanskrit is like the language of the mother of languages, right? And when I discovered that, I was like, oh my God, because I studied languages at the university. I like love languages. I'm always learning, and but as soon as I discovered that the Sanskrit was like the origin of every kind of language and communication, I was like shocked. So I'm thinking about, like, would it be like a translation in Sanskrit of Adam and Eva, or no? Maybe I don't know.
It's a really good question. Something that I can answer because I read this book long time ago, The Evolution of God, and Jehovah and Elion, they used to be two different gods. Also, there is some mix from the Mesopotamic religions, and also there is a mix from Egyptian religions, I believe. So there is a bit of a mix there in the area of Israel, in Middle East, and the way monotheistic religions arrive is through different polytheistic cultures and tribes that they start to confront their gods somehow.
Yeah.
So this is my god, this is your god, what your god can do, what my god can do. Okay, can we create a new god that is able to do this or that? And with this Elion and Jehovah, there is this story. Jehovah used to be more of a warrior god, and Elion used to be more of a creator god. So in the Christian god seems to be a mix of these two. It's something you can find more of this information in the Evolution of God, which I forgot the name of the author at the moment. So coming back to Adam and Eve, which we don't know why their names, but and for sure they have a meaning, as Abraham has a meaning as well. So I think it's very relevant, and this is something that happened recently, which is the women. So at the moment that the man was happily eating, walking around the Garden of Eden, right? Because that's where God creates, that's what God creates for humans. So he puts both of them are naked and they are in this Garden of Eden, which we can go deeper into Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. Every day, like a naked woman and a naked man walking in a garden.
Yeah. And basically they are happily ever after because they have food, they have nothing to do, they are just there very happily. And now you can make the metaphor of them being kids, because you put a boy kid and a boy and a girl kid in a garden and they are going to be naked, happy, without worrying about yesterday or tomorrow, as long as they have food and something to play with or do. So that's the kid state of humanity. And somehow there is one thing they cannot do, which is eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And Adam is totally fine with that. But Eve, is just walking around, and then there is this snake that speaks. So this is a lot of information about how our eyes are adapted to look at fruit. They evolved to look at fruit when we were chimps, and then our eyes evolved also to detect snakes. So this is very relevant into how our environment and our stimuli is able to make our brains grow. And the reason why it seems is the woman, the one that sees the apple and speaks with the snake, it seems to be like they are more aware of their environment. And this is, I have a recent story about it, which is like, I was with a friend and then we met this girl and then we are walking and how many thoughts she had on their head about, oh, but I have to do this, or I need to do this, or then later I have to do this. While for us, for my friend and me, we were boys, it's like, we will solve it later. And this is so relevant into feminine masculine polarity. Like, if you put yourself into the savannah, a guy is like, okay, I'm hungry, I climb the tree. But the women might think like, okay, I am hungry, or my kid is gonna get hungry. So can I leave? Just picture the most vulnerable moment of a woman, which is when she's pregnant or when she has a newborn baby. Like, she cannot let the kid on the ground to climb the tree to get the fruit, because then, a lion comes and eat the baby, basically. Yeah. So that's how much brain power the women has to generate into prospective thinking of what's going to happen in the future, what are my needs, what are the needs of the other person, and the caring behavior as well, which is more present in women, while the man is more focused on the goal, is more focused on his physical, intellectual power, right? More egocentric, and the women is more exterocentric, let's say. And there it happens there, like the women sees the snake, communicate with the snake, and then invites the man to bite from the knowledge of thinking beyond yourself, brother. Like, what if you can think beyond you? And that's the moment where, God catches both, and then they realize they are both naked, and then they try to hide themselves, and they go out. And they, yeah.
I just wanted to say that it's so crazy that there was this figure, which is a snake, which the snake, like in spirituality, and especially like in like in yoga world, it represents the Kundalini, it represents something energetic in our body already, which is so crazy. I mean, I'm just realizing that, and it's so crazy.
Yeah.
How is, please.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, you go. Come on.
I remember watching a documentary when I was living in Africa. I was in Harare in Zimbabwe, and I watched a
Wow.
documentary that made exactly that link, the link of the story of the Genesis with the Kundalini, which is the sexual energy activation. And it's so powerful because it's again the woman telling the man, this is how much you can experience or how much you can, access to different states of consciousness and the connection between both of them, right? And yeah, 100%, totally agree. And even this is the more sexual drive. So how masculine energy has a higher sexual desire that that the women can, let's say, control more, and even how the women, and they do unconsciously and not so unconsciously, they apply this understanding of the sexual energy to direct the behavior of men, especially when the women are, let's say, more evil. They can really guide, they can drive guys crazy only by using their, let's say, not
Their power.
exactly, not balanced sexual energy or not under control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my God, Carlito. Oh my God. How many things?
Lot of topics to cover, definitely, and to go in deep.
Yeah, totally. Well, I guess that was a nice introduction of, right, of what we're gonna talk about the next times.
What I would say to our listeners is we just scratched the surface of all the topics. So we scratched the surface of who is Elen, we scratched the surface of who am I, we scratched the surface of masculine, feminine polarities. And yeah, and I would like to ask all of the listeners also, like, give us questions, give us topics, tell us what you like, tell us your approaches, because that's for us the most informational source to create the content and to create something that you like and you enjoy and you learn.
Totally. Yeah. No, I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait to listen some question to know about you guys and about your curiosities, and yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. So anything else that you would like to say to our listeners, Ellen?
What are you laughing at? No, I mean, there's so much to say. I mean, there's so much to say also about me. I mean, I guess next time that we gonna have more time next episode. I guess we're gonna, so many things are gonna came up, like just talking and just speaking about some interesting topic. There's a way. I feel that this is a way also to undiscover ourselves, myself and yourself too. At the same time, it's interesting for us too. I mean, to understand more about ourselves. So yeah,
definitely, yeah, and yeah. We would like to invite you guys to tell us, do you like more spiritual content? Do you like more, let's say, narrative, religious, mythological content? Would you like to get the most scientific aspect? Because all of these are different paths that we can discover, and ideally we can find a bridge. We can find a middle ground between the different ones.
Yeah.
So one of my visions for this podcast is to create a Huberman lab of spirituality. So then we can analyze all the physiology, all the biology, all the most grounded material strata of how we enter into the consciousness, as well as we could have a more psychological approach into the different psychological theories, or we could go more to the mythology, to the narrative, which could be something closer to what Jordan Peterson is doing. So, guys, we will be creating content, guys and girls. And we send you a lot of love. Remember to check out Playing Camp if you want to connect with your inner child and be funnier.
And go to the events, go to the events that he's organizing in Bali. That's so cool.
Pillow fights, treehouse experiences, beach expeditions. We have everything. Soon a 5-day retreat. So stay tuned. And thank you very much for listening until the end. We send you a lot of love and a lot of
Thank
light
you.
and a lot of laughs. And we see you in the next episode with many more stories, many more content, and much, much more love, information, wisdom, and enlightenment for all of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlito, again.
Carlito and Elen here, Spirituality and Psychology for you guys. See ya. Check our
Ciao.
Instagram and check our YouTube channel. We keep on releasing
Gonna
high
post it.
valuable content.
I
for all
was
of you.
actually thinking, Carlos, maybe it could be interesting to translate it, or maybe like, what about the audience, the Italian audience or the Spanish audience doesn't speak English?
If you like the mission and if you like the vision of Spi Psy, you are very welcome to send us your collaborations and your proposals because we will do our best to reach as many people as possible in different languages, in English, in Spanish, in Italian, and we are very happy of leveraging AI as well to do all this work of translating and reaching out different audiences in different countries. Thank you very much, Elen, for thinking about everyone. And see you in the next episode of Spi Psy. Ciao.
Ciao.